Good morning. Jimmy Townsend here. Just wanted to give you a couple updates on what's been going on in my life and the ongoing global financial meltdown. It's really funny at times how you seem to get pushed into certain situations. And I'm kind of up in the middle of the night. My shoulders are driving me crazy. My hands feel like they're turning inside out. I just, I've been eating some herbs, some anti-ache, but when it gets really bad, that sometimes hard to do anything with. I've got some white willow bark that I've been taking too, plus a whole pile of other stuff. I've got some kelp capsules here. I got these before that radiation cloud come over from Japan there. Staying out of the rain right now because radioactivity levels are high, and it's hard to get reliable data on exactly what's going on. I've been putting Alexis oil, which are essential oils, and drops iodine in my drinking water, and using a lot of iodized salt. This is iodized sea salt. It's very high in potassium iodide. Be careful what you're buying now, because I heard that kelp on the coast has got 400 times the allowable level of radioactive iodine 133 isotopes or whatever. At any rate, that's the update on the kind of depressing environmental information. Things that are melting down in our society. An update to my court case. Well, I went to court. There's the docket. And as you can see, there's the, I went to see the sheriff there. And this was printed at, okay, so you can see the printed date there. This was printed at 9:15 on the 29th of March 2011. I showed up for court and was not scheduled. I asked the the court clerk. Now, this is the fucking funniest stuff going on in this court case, I tell you. So this Goodyear comes out and arrests me. Fills out no details on this arrest warrant that he supposedly gives me. Well, that's a violation of Section 9 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. You have to be told the details of why they arrested you. There's nothing on that. So it was what they call an arbitrary detention. It was unlawful, which is why I refused to sign the thing. And he even states on his indictment there that he read me Section 10 of the Charter, which specifically says you have to be given all of the details. So he violates Section 9 in his arbitrary detention and arrest. So I go to court anyways, because I don't want to get shot by these asses that are just a pretend fucking corporation pretending to be a government in courts. And I'm going to explain to you why they're doing this. It's interesting what you find out. You know, sometimes I just want to stop and be left alone. That's why I went way out in the middle of nowhere to play with a pan in a mud puddle. But no, people got to come and shoot at me and do bullshit to me, so I write letters. Then they got to charge me because I write letters. And then they got all this garbage that's going on. Arbitrarily detained and arrested, which is violation of this charter that they uphold and everything else. I had a big box full of stuff all ready to go. Now here's the thing. First time I show up, they give me an indictment. It's not even signed. So an arbitrary detention thing. Here's this indictment. But oh yeah, they want to do the paperwork so they can just shoot you in the back. Oh, the guy didn't show up for court, he's in contempt. And that's what contempt of court is, by the way, just not showing up for this fucking thing. So you got proof that I went there and they didn't even schedule me. I asked the clerk, I says, how come I'm not scheduled? I want to get an oath signed. I says, I haven't got any information in the file. Now here's the thing. We go down and we get signed oaths We go and take our oaths down and get it notarized down at the Crown Agent's office, and we fax it in. And we get down to the courthouse, and they say, oh, we didn't get any information. Our court file was empty. Not the indictment in there, not anything. And I'm saying to the court clerks, I'm using your forms here. They're telling me to come down here, and you're supposed to do this. You're not supposed to give me any help, which means that you're not supposed to tell me that you don't agree with this, so you're not going to sign it. That's not what you're here for. You're supposed to be a notary. So these court clerks are actually, in Vernon courts, are actually playing with this NCO and Wendland and Goodyear and Pro Se. All I can say to you is keep it up. I already have a formal complaint into the RCMP, and you are being investigated for this bullshit about someone attempting to murder me and then charging me with this bullshit for complaining to the ombudsman. You pushed far enough. Now there you go. You got that shit to handle. So here at any rate, I showed up for their kangaroo court there, and they didn't even make a show with the goddamn thing. So there I got their date and their stamp and everything else. But get this. Refused to take any of my information for the file. The judge says, oh, I'm only listening to sworn testimony. I show him the indictment. I said, well, it's written right on here. Oh, I'm just listening to sworn testimony. Well, see, he must have known at the time that wasn't sworn testimony, that indictment and everything, and it was all just a charade. And you know what? You look at the stuff these judges are into. Look at this judge in Manitoba now. She makes this porn film with this black guy. The black guy works for an insurance company. The black guy gets fired for making the porn film with this judge. Meanwhile, it's the judge's lawyer husband who's hired the black guy in the first place to make this porn film with his wife. But they're saying, oh, it's all right for the judge to do this because, you know, everybody out there has this stuff. But they fired a black guy, and he's the one who got hired to do the judge in the first place to make the porn film. Well, you know, how many Judge Ramseys are sitting on the bench, in pants and in skirts in this country? It's all a con game. It's all a con game by the Justice Department. The government of this country is formed by the Crown. Who are the Crown? The Crown Temple Church from London. They're a coven of Jewish freemasons. They're bankers and lawyers. Okay, here's the thing. We got this Constitution that's shoved down our throat, and how's it start out? Recognizing the supremacy of God and the rule of lawyers. Now, in order to defend myself against these asses, I have to go and read all of these laws. So I read the criminal code, I read a couple of law dictionaries, I get on the Justice Department website, and I'm reading all of these acts that constitute Canadian jurisprudence. So here we have Section 52(1) of this supposed Constitution of ours that says it's the supreme law of Canada. And then you come across the Bank of International Settlements Immunity Act. The Bank of International Settlements Immunity Act has two clauses. The first one being, we're above all of your laws, they can't be imposed on us. And number two is, you can't touch any of our property. Now, how do you not be subject to any of the laws that give rise to your powers enacted in this in the first place? How does an act put you above itself by ignoring all of its laws? That's a very strange act. Sam, no, come here, buddy. Come on. You come here. You come and talk to these people, okay, so that they can see that you're actually a good boy and you're not going to do that. Now, think about this Bank of International Settlements Immunity Act. And as I've said, the world is in the middle of a global financial meltdown. Back in 1998, I wrote a paper on real money. And that paper on real money, I said years ago, here, I want to quote out of this thing. Real money. Money, moneta, meaning to mint. Money is by definition minted coins of precious metal. And I go on to talk about gold and silver, about bimetallism. And my goodness, you're a wiggly little guy. And here I even say, more people are about to lose more valuable property. Sam! No, leave Hunter alone. Sorry about that, dogs. More people are about to lose more valuable property than ever before in history. But wealth is not destroyed, it is merely transferred, and it will be transferred to a very few. And I even mentioned the Bank of International Settlements in here. And then I tell people to buy silver. This is when silver was at $5 an ounce. And it's just about at 40. Now what silver is an indicator of the relative worthlessness of the currency in the system. See, here's all the global bankers have done. They go into a country, they create a de facto government. They create a corporation, for instance, call it Canada, same name as our country. They assume power as our de facto government, and then they set up de facto courts. Then they use the courts to attack the nation. That's how they take all of our resources. We say, hey, you can't clear cut our logs. Oh, of course you can. Oh. And we're sitting there, oh, justice is blind. Justice. Crack a criminal code and look at the definition of justice. Justice is a judge. You go into the court, there's justice blindfolded. Is it a bunch of lawyers playing pin the tail on the donkey? Yeah, it is. And you get to be the ass, and they just keep on sticking you with the sword of justice. While the judge sits there blindfolded, because he only considers gold. That's it. It's a total scam, total con game by a coven of satanic freemasons. That's all these people are. Secret societies? Are you fucking kidding me? Secret societies in our society? Whenever you have secret societies within a society, that's called active treason. People swear blood oaths. No wonder they swear blood oaths, because they should be dangling like fucking Christmas tree ornaments when they sell us out to a fucking foreign nation. That's bullshit, man. Treason. Do you know what it is? Legal definition: betraying the government of the state into the hands of a foreign power. Now, we the people of Canada supposedly elect a government to represent us. Now, keep in mind, Thomas Paine wrote in The Rights of Man that power has one of two sources. It is either delegated, in which case it is a sacred trust, or it is assumed, in which case it is complete usurpation of power. And that's what's happened. It's been assumed. It's a complete usurpation of power. We, the people of Canada, believe that we are electing a government to represent us. Not so. December the 10th, 1990, in Leduc, Alberta, Wetaskiwin constituents took their MP, Wilton Littlechild, to court, and they charged him because he did not vote according to their dictates in the House. It was a question of GST, for which they held a plebiscite, and 100% of the people in that constituency voted against it. Based on that, they elected Wilton Littlechild, who went to Ottawa and voted for GST, but the judge ruled that the MP did not represent the constituents to Parliament. He represented Parliament to the constituents. You see, when the MP went to Ottawa, he committed an act of treason. He betrayed the government of the state. At that point in time, he represented the state, but he swore allegiance to a foreign power. He betrayed his sacred trust. The people believed that they had sent a delegate, and what they had done was sent a usurper. And these people are in our courts. And why did they use the courts? Well, it's really very easy. Paper. Anything written on a piece of paper that purports to represent something of value is an IOU, because paper doesn't have a value. Gold and silver have a value. The first bearer bonds had written on them, pay bearer on demand $1. $1 is a weight of silver. It said, pay the bearer on demand $1. It said, pay a weight of silver to this person. And that's what a bearer bond was. Now these are just fiat currencies. They're created by fiat. By who? By the courts. It's lawyer money. 99% of the lawyers give the rest a bad name. Yeah, ha ha. They're biggest fucking, we know what Shylocks are, right? And they want their pound of flesh carved from around your heart. But here's the thing, suckers, not a drop of blood. And that's the thing. Bank of International Settlements, Immunity Act. What do these bankers do? They come in, they print IOUs, debt instruments, called currency. We know who it is. Got the person's face that does all the counterfeiting right there. They take their IOUs, and you are legally forced to take those debt instrument IOUs for all of your assets. Now, Canada, it really is this easy. You cannot give away all of your valuable assets for debt instruments and end up with anything other than debts. That's why the Bank of International Settlements has an asset base of $175 trillion and is owed a global debt of $100 trillion. Now, Basel, Switzerland is also the home of the world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturers, and 4 times as many people die from pharmaceutical drug use as from illicit narcotics. The illicit narcotics are brought into our country by these phony corporate governments. The British Crown of Israel and their Jewish monarchs have been the world's largest drug dealers for centuries. Opium wars, anybody, the opium wars are still going on. And you know what they do with victims of the opium wars? They pin poppies on their dead corpses. Poppies on their dead corpses. 1111. Think of the Kabbalistic numerology in 1111 and pinning a poppy on a dead corpse. Think about it. You're being played for suckers. Look up the definition of the Canadian Armed Forces in the Canadian Criminal Code. Canada's never had an armed force. Canadian Armed Forces, Her Majesty's forces raised by Canada. Cannon fodder in foreign wars. Forced religion legislation. Smash. Throw in the Bibles. Throw in the legislation. Write the pieces of paper to steal everything that you own. And slave you with debt instruments. Debt peonage slavery, by the way, is a crime against humanity and violates the United Nations Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Well, my friends, there we have it in a nutshell. Crazy life. You know, it's funny how you get pushed into things and you find deeper truths out of it all. And, you know, when you don't want to do anything, you find yourself just compelled to stand up and speak greater truths. And it's amazing that, you know, you don't even have to open your own mouth. You just get empowered with this force that goes through you. And it's not righteous indignation at being badly abused and mistreated by something that purports to be honorable. It's just a flow of energy that starts through you, and you know, it vitiates even my dead old corpse to stand up and speak the truth. You know, like I feel so empowered right now, like this energy flowing through my body that's just compelling me to say to people, you know what, it's so easy to see what's going on. It's just a simple little con game, paper con games. And these people control our lives. They're not legitimate. Legitimate people don't fire bullets through your motor home and then come up and mock you while they're standing there in their yellow striped little clown uniforms, wearing their flak jackets and guns, and tell you, oh, well, no one's ever going to turn himself in and it'll never be investigated and all this other type of stuff, you know. And you go to the courts, and here's the court clerks, and they're running around. And I said to the court clerk, you know what? Here I've gone and sworn an oath. Now, my oath that I've sworn to, and I got it notarized by a lawyer as well, and I brought it into that courthouse, and I showed that lady. I said, listen, my oath says that I'm accepting your oath of office, and your oath of office says that you're supposed to uphold the law and do what your duty is here. In Section 337 of your criminal code says that you can't refuse to do something that's your duty to do because you've sworn an oath to do that. And I said, all this thing is fraud on court. Well, that lady knew what I was talking about. And then the other court clerk comes out, get this, she says, oh, well, we're going to refuse to sign this because we don't want to, and you're going to have to get, somebody on call. Little magpie run around in, not a magpie, little crow running around in a black suit there, not a court clerk, but another guy. She says he's a notary as well, Rob Wark or something like that. So she's got me looking for this Rob Wark, and I go upstairs. Meanwhile, she gets into this elevator and takes off. Well, then I get told, well, he normally hangs out in the sheriff's office. So I go down to the sheriff's office and I talk to this Fraser Brooks. He's the sheriff, and here's this court clerk in there. And she's obviously talking about us because my wife and I and my son and daughter go walking through the door, and she goes all red and looks the other way, and here's this big fat sheriff with his hand on his guns looking at us, and he says, these are the ones you're talking about upstairs. And she nods her head and quickly runs from the room. And I says, well, sir, do we have a problem here or something like this? I says, I'm trying to get these oaths sworn. I says, I'm supposed to be in court. I got given these papers. I says, everything's highly irregular about this. And I started showing them my paperwork. I says, I've been arrested. It's been a false arrest. I says, I've got an indictment here. It's not signed. It's not sworn or anything else. I said, upstairs I've got an empty file. I can't get the clerks to take any of my paperwork. I said, I've got an oath here that they're supposed to sign. They're just simply supposed to notarize. Well, it doesn't work that way around here. I says, well, you know what? You give me a piece of paper that has explicit instructions on it. How to do everything. Oh, how to be respectful to the judge and all that other sort of stuff. And I says, it tells me to do that. And I take it up to them, and they refuse to uphold their oath of office. They're in violation of their oath. Oh, it doesn't work that way around here. I'm just a fat fuck with a gun, and everybody does what the fat fuck with the gun says. Well, you know what? Canada, the corporation pretending to be our government, is just a fat fuck with a gun. And you know what? The fat fuck with the gun wants your gun because the fat fuck with the gun don't want to be called to account, get his fat fuck gun taken away, and stuck out in the field to work like a goddamn dog like they do to everybody else in this fucking country. People say, oh, Jimmy, you shouldn't swear. You know what? It shouldn't matter how I talk. It should only matter how I act. And you know what? I've never done shit like this to anybody. I've never ripped off anybody in my entire life. This is a garbage society we live in. It takes all the very best and just trashes it. You know, it's like that Gordon Lightfoot song, or whatever his name is there, you know, that see the wise and wicked ones that feed upon life's sacred fire. That's all they do. They feed upon life's sacred fire. And they pretend to be high and mighty and right honorable, and they're not. Riding around on their little carts and little airplanes in parades and giving part of their stolen wealth to the children's hospital. You know, it's all a deception, because here's the thing. A lot of those people in those organizations are good people. Yes, they don't understand what it is that they're doing, but the people at the top are hideous. The people at the top in our government are hideous. And you look at where power is in our society. It rests with the law, the rule of law. One little tiny segment of our society, the rule of law. What about the rule of free men? The rule of law, all of us. Whatever happened to juries and all this other sort of stuff? Or electing these judges so that you don't end up with Judge Ramsey sitting in office for 20 years, or this latest judge out in Manitoba there that makes porn movies and is saying, well, you know, I'm here to judge people, not to be judged. Now, whose epistemology is that? Judge not, lest ye be judged. At any rate, that's my rant for the day. So now that you've been updated, keep your heads down. I see that it's very hard to buy silver now. COMEX is shorted up, so here we go. We're going in for the crash, and I got a feeling it's going to be before June. You know, they said knocking them about all the stuff about the Canadian dollar and all that other sort of stuff. Don't believe it. Just keep on looking at silver. And remember what silver is an indication of, and don't get into buying gold. Remember that right now, gold market has been controlled for years. And right now, the people that own the gold are selling a gold at a premium, okay? And they're using the money that they get from selling their gold to buy silver. Okay, and when the system crashes, they're going to have a Gold Confiscation Act. You're going to be required to turn in all your gold at the reset real money price of $20 an ounce, and they'll pay you out their silver in exchange and get all their gold back and still maintain all of their purchasing power, because they've got a whack of silver on hand. And that's why I said years ago in real money, get yourself the silver, not paper or anything else. And I see people are still playing the stock market. You got to remember, though, everything on the stock market is a con game. It's a fix. It's the silver fix. It's the gold fix. Okay? What are they fixing right now? Well, right now they're trying to hold gold at under $1,400 an ounce, while they have to keep on letting the pressure off the silver. Why do they have to let the pressure off silver? So the whole financial system doesn't collapse catastrophically. But you got to remember this time, all the global currencies are all going to crash all at the same time because they're not backed by anything. So it's not just going to be one currency getting shorted this time. You take a look at Canada's dollar. Oh, it's up, oh, it's down. It's all fucking horseshit. It's on par. It's just as worthless as anything else. So we've got silver at just about $40 an ounce, and we know that an ounce of silver weighs $1.30. Do the math. That means that it's right now a phony dollar. It takes $29.30 to buy what you used to buy for $1. Okay, so that means 29.3 times as much phony currency, and right now it's hyper accelerating. So you're going to see that go faster and faster and faster. Get into food, whatever you can. Get all the food that you possibly can. Get it put away. Get as much fresh water put away as you possibly can. Remember, put water in a glass jar, and it'll last for a long, long time. Get yourself some essential oils. Oregano oil is very antiseptic, but sweet orange oil costs way less, and it's the second most antiseptic oil out there, and it's also got a pleasant aroma, so it's not bad drinking a little bit of orange water there. And make sure that you get some iodine. Okay, and sea salt. You want to keep your thyroid saturated with iodide so it doesn't pick it up from any passing radiation. See, because you can only really protect yourself against minute amounts of radiation poisoning, and you can prevent yourself from getting a lot of cancers. If you go onto my websites, you'll see links over to my wife's websites and how to make herbal remedies for cleansing your body of radioactive toxins, and anti-cancer tea as well. So share the information out there, and make sure that you got enough food that you can share with your naysaying friends who unfortunately are going to face this debacle along with this. Unfortunately not nearly as prepared either. And keep in mind that the system is coming up on an imminent crash very quickly. The U.S. government has already warned that non-essential services like parks and all that other sort of stuff are going to be going offline, and even put out a communique about using BlackBerries, the unauthorized use of BlackBerries. If you get laid off, they want you just to shut them off, but be ready to turn them on in an emergency, and stuff like that. That indicates that there's the infrastructure meltdown going on, and concomitant with that, of course, is going to be the lights going out, and with the lights going out, there goes your digital currency and lifeline to civilization and everything else. So it's going to be, as they have engineered and predicted, much greater catastrophe than ever before on the scale of man. And unfortunately, in desperation in 1998, I was passing out my brochure, and have been since then, but people don't really listen until the into the middle of it. And somewhere along the way, I hope somebody says, you know what, that guy was saying for a long time that this is exactly what's going to happen. And he was also saying that, you know what, it's going to keep on happening until we Canadians grow some brains, get together, form lawful de jure governments, form lawful de jure courts, elect judiciaries, elect a government that will represent us, that understand that we are electing them to a sacred trust, a position, a sacred trust, and the venue of government is to govern the civil service, not to govern the state which elected them in the first place. You see, that's a usurpation of power, and our power has been completely usurped. They stand on our necks and they say, oh, well, you allowed this to happen. No. People do not allow themselves to be deceived. Deception, you see, that is a thief trying to blame the victim, and that's what we have to understand, is this coven of Jewish freemasons that have set up shop in our country are not right, are not honorable. There's nothing right and honorable about them. It's satanic garbage. We have to understand the simple little Fabian philosophy of force, religion, and legislation. They smash societies. They go in, they distribute Bibles to mind manipulate people, and then they bring in their lawyers under the skirts of God so that the lawyers can use the legal system to legally mandate that you take their debt instruments in exchange for your assets. That's all that's going on. We are legally mandated into a con game by it's just filth. Justice blindfolded? Come on. You can see through that. Justice needs to have the blindfold taken off. And justice needs to be redefined as a jury. A jury that are trying you, they are presuming you innocent and trying you based upon the morals and the ethics of a society, not precedents and the letter of the law of legal atrocities that are used to beggar a nation, to impoverish a nation and attack it. And look what this government is doing. All of these chemtrails, all of this garbage, it doesn't look after the people that it serves. It's because it's a foreign power and it's used for nothing more than to fleece all of us. And you know what? I don't care, my fellow countrymen. I don't care if you're in a yellow striped uniform. You can fucking well understand what it is that I'm saying. And you know that I'm telling you the truth. How dare you swear allegiance to a power on the other side of this earth and claim you are serving we Canadians who have been forced all of our lives to pay your wages. I had to tell the disability office to go fuck themselves. You know what? I have government records that I got back under the Freedom of Information Act that show that the RCMP have been dealing with literally every government office that I've had any dealings with in the last 15 years. For God's sakes, they're the ones that went after my mining claim. They even had my disability worker calling up the mining claims office and making complaints about me residing on a mining claim. Now, this is my disability worker who purposely does not get the $35,000 worth of work done to my broken teeth, purposely cuts me off my disability, and I found out in my own records that they knew that my child tax benefits were exempt and still cut my wife and I off for over a year of disability benefits. It cost us at that time $22,000 they defrauded us of when they knew they had no right to keep those funds back from us, and they investigated us for fraud. They even made us give them our children's bank accounts. That Dawn Fawn Desjarlais here, the social worker in the disability office here in the Cusp made me get my children's bank accounts for her when it shows in her notes that she already knew that the funds were exempt, and she was doing that anyway. A total abuse of power. And these are people that make up garbage shit about me, and I've got all the garbage shit about me made up. Here they are asking the judge if he can sign a court order to keep me out of all government offices. But I'm already there. They've already got a little internal memo that if I go into a government office in BC, they call the RCMP. I have minutes of a meeting between the RCMP and the local office here, sitting down and discussing whether there's anything that they can charge me with. This is 5 years the RCMP have been going around, fucking around with the disability office and everything that I do to see if something that they can charge me with. And after all this time, after they motivate one of their criminal little fucking informants to fire bullets through my goddamn motorhome, and there I am in court with them to show them this. Look at idiots. It's about someone trying to murder me. Here's the judge in court. You can ask my good wife, the judge in court, saying, I don't want to talk about murder. This guy's fucking nuts, man. Just all play acting because they all knew that nothing was signed or anything else. And you know what? It takes a long time to realize that, you know what? These people have absolute knowledge of what it is that they're doing. You'd think that they're ignorant of it. They just don't know. Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. No. Those clerks in the Vernon Law Office, you betcha Bobby they knew what they were doing. And when I told that clerk, this is fraud on court, you're violating your own oath of office, she knew exactly what I was saying. And I said, now you tell me, am I scheduled for court this morning? My daughter, my son, my wife were standing right there. And she said, no, you're not. And I said, now how is that? And how is it that I have an empty file there? She says, I don't know. So I took down the docket off the board. All my witnesses that were there for court signed it. You can see that thing was printed by them at 9:15 and put up on the board. I've been waiting there the whole time asking them, what's going on here? How come you're not accepting anything? Oh, well, it's time to go to court now. And then they post this thing, and I said, well, why am I not on it? And I said, am I scheduled to go to court? And she said, no, you're not. Now, that's an entire deception. You know, people say, Jimmy, you know what, you're letting us all get you all wound up and all that. That's just the way the system works. You know what? It's wrong. It's wrong. It preys on us. Here's this system. It's just wrong. These are criminals, and they are destroying people's lives. They're giving them criminal records. North America is under attack. We have 75% of the world's lawyers and 25% of the world's incarcerated prisoners. Who's at the top of the heaps? The Supreme Court of Canada. 6 of 9 Supreme Court justices are dual citizen Israeli Jews. Now, you think about that when we have MP ministers like Justice Erwin Kotler, who goes over and says on the Global Jewish Agenda website that all Canadians are anti-Semitic because Canada sent 4 UN ambassadors to the South African Durban Conference Against Racism, and all 4 of them, along with all the member nations of the United Nations, condemned Israel as an apartheid state. And our Justice Minister, MP Erwin Kotler, calls all Canadians anti-Semitic. That's the same drum that they were banging in these phony indictment that they had against me. They mentioned my book, Freedom Canada. And they said, oh, we have to go after this book because this book is anti-Semitic and promotes violence. Well, I want to read you something out of this anti-Semitic violent promoting book here. And you know what? It's funny because I even got written here. Is violence a solution? Page 35. The Jewish people, page 36. So let's go see what I have to say about violence and the Jewish people here that they call me violent and anti-Semitic. Is violence a solution? No, never, and absolutely not. Okay? Now, no, never, and absolutely not. Okay, so this is violent? I wrote this when I was president of the Alberta Party. What's the chances that I was trying to get people to support 5 planks in my platform? Legal taxes only, enforced property rights, an elected judiciary, family focus, and a direct democracy. My goodness. Isn't that just the most terrorist act of that, eh? And that says, get rid of the crown pretending to be our government, this hideous thing. No more fairy tales, a king and a queen. Force religion and legislation. Force the knight, religion, the bishop, legislation, the rook. Tell me, what game are we playing? Okay? Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote about it in the Grand Chess Game, and he told us back in the 70s that they were going into Iraq and Afghanistan and Iran and every other place. We know what's going on. The Jewish people. If you really want to know if the system works like I have just said, just ask a Jewish person or ask a Canadian Native Indian what the Crown has done to them. They have been persecuted to the ends of the earth and back by these banking authorities. They have been caught in the middle of this merchant banking and just judicial system forever. Jewish people have been used as scapegoats for millennia. Oh yeah, that's anti-Semitic as fuck, isn't it? I think we all understand by now what a garbage society we live in. I think we all understand who exactly controls the media. I think we all understand that we're under attack by foreign nations. I think we all understand that Israel is being set up as a scapegoat in the coming global meltdown. But who's going to be sitting there, a neutral country, like they already always have been, Switzerland, while the world erupts around them? Basel, Switzerland has an asset base of $175 trillion and has owed a global debt of $100 trillion. The supreme law in Canada is the Bank of International Settlements Immunity Act, which says we're not subject to any of your laws and you can't touch any of our ill-gotten gains. And you know what, my fellow countrymen? If you can't put it the fuck together with this, it ain't never going to happen. Now, love and hugs to all of you who's got your eyes open, and just fuck all the rest of you, man. You know where your paycheck's coming from, and you know your paycheck's just about to fucking end. What are you going to do? Turn on your fellow countrymen? Peace and love, y'all.